What did he do when people said you were stupid, son?
What business is that of yours? My problems are my own.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Cast of Kings, a Decoding TV podcast about the HBO original series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm David Chen, and I have not read George R.R. Martin's A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
I'm Kim Renfro, and I have read George R.R. Martin's A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Welcome to the podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be discussing Season 1, Episode 2 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Hard Salt Beef is the name of the episode. Hard Salt Beef. So we're going to be sharing our overall thoughts, going over some of your feedback, and then diving into the episode beat by beat, talking about some of the moments from the episode that were recreated from the books, comparing and contrasting, all from Kim Renfro's encyclopedic knowledge of the Game of Thrones universe. So let's get into it, folks. Let's start by just talking briefly about what we thought about this week's episode. Kim Renfro, what'd you think?
I loved this as a continuation of last week's tone setting that we talked a lot about in our pod. I loved the way that this really encapsulated that perfect drama comedy overlap, dramedy, if you will. And while giving us I was feeling very emotional throughout the episode and very connected to Duncan Egg already, laughing out loud at little Egg's quips and mannerisms here and there. And also it felt like a very poignant and beautifully written message of an episode about what it is to aspire to the legacy of the people who raised you, while also charting out on your own path, all in the face of some really awful people and some people who will help you. And so I really loved it as that little microcosm of story. And again, for we're not used to these 30 what did we say it landed at exactly? 33 minutes?
33 minutes, I think this one was? Or...
Yeah. So I'm enjoying sitting in the more short story form of Game of Thrones TV right now.
I also had a good time with the episode. We got to meet a new Targaryen named Baelor Targaryen, who is a pretty awesome character, I think. Just a very dignified, cool dude. And a bunch of other Targaryens who are not as cool. But also incredible action in the episode. Every single frame of this show looks like the production values are just off the charts. Tons of extras, set dressing, production design, just all there working together to convince you, hey, we're at this this tournament they're pulling out all the stops for, and I'm still having a good time with the show. So overall, really enjoying A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Let's talk about some of the emails that have come in to acastofkings@gmail.com. Here's a big one that I think is kind of interesting. And last week on the podcast, we talked about whether or not it is confirmed in the books that Sir Duncan was knighted by Sir Arlen or not. And this is a minor book spoiler, I guess, but not really, is that according to Kim Renfro and Jesse Earl, the true nature of the knighting is not revealed in the books, right? That was the verdict that you all rendered on this.
Yeah, and especially in such that the book opens in Dunk's perspective at the same point that the show did, when Sir Arlen's already died. So just from a practical standpoint, we never in the book are in the point of time or have a flashback to Sir Arlen knighting Dunk. It's all Dunk's own word and what he says or explains to other people or internally thinks about. And as we know, those aren't reliable things.
We did get an email from somebody named Alex writing into acastofkings@gmail.com. Alex writes in about this topic. Yes, the book isn't explicit about Dunk's knighting, but it's all but explicit. It says that Dunk knew what it was like to tell, quote unquote, a monstrous lie to get what he wanted. Also, if he was a knight, why would he have considered joining the City Watch or selling his horses? To quote Lionel, a knight without a horse is no knight at all. If he was a knight, he could always find a lord to sell his sword to make money. The fact that he considers anything else heavily implies he wasn't knighted. And I had the same reading of the Robin as soon as that scene happened. The book also mentioned the Robin. In my opinion, it's incredibly clear that Dunk is lying, end quote. So I read this email and I forwarded it to Kim, and I was in great distress. I was like, Kim, did you lead me astray? You know, is the book actually much more clear than you indicate? And Kim, what do you think?
I'm trying to stand by what I think and how I've interpreted it. But like it's funny because I don't, Alex, right? This is from Alex. It's like I don't disagree with anything that Alex is saying. I guess maybe I'm being pedantic about it, but like I don't know, from like a writer's standpoint, if George has never come out and said, yes, this is all a story about a young boy who lies about being knighted and does all he can to prove that he is, again, maybe I should like take a second to re-Google this, but like I don't think that's ever happened. I believe part of the conversation around this book is that we start from a point of being in the perspective of a young man who clearly was raised by and squired a knight, who now is entering a tournament and saying, this guy in his dying days knighted me. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances, and we were both hedge knights, there was no one to witness it. There was no ceremony. I have no proof. All I have is my word. And then we are sitting here wondering, okay, like that's a really cool story, bro. Is it true, or is that a big monstrous lie? Like, is that the monstrous lie of your life that like now you made the lie and you're having to live up to trying to make it worth it, I guess? Like, do the ends justify the means? Like, to me, wrestling with that is part of the story, I guess.
Yes. I just want to be clear. Kim and I talked about this before, like that I was going to bring this up. So I didn't just spring this on her during the show. Okay?
No, but I'm just in real time second guessing myself.
I brought it up with such force. Like Kim gave a very even-handed response to me before the show, and I guess I brought it up with so much force just now that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm questioning myself. But no, Kim, come stand firm. It is ambiguous. You were telling me before the show, like people on Reddit. They have been debating. This is a matter of much debate. It is not a settled question, in your opinion, that he's lying about being knighted, correct?
Yeah. And I think it is the I'm glad that it is part of the conversation about why would someone do this, you know? If he was, and again, to Alex's point, if he was a knight, why didn't he go do a lot of the other things that knights have options to? I thought the in-universe explanation for that is like, he's kind of just again, he's a green boy. And Sir Arlen, in all of these flashbacks that we're seeing, at least in this telling of this tale, didn't really do everything he could to set up Dunk for success after his death. So, you know, it's believable that like, Dunk doesn't understand the mechanics of what his options are. But of course, the most famous and the most notable and the most like the dream of the everyday man in Westeros is something like a tourney. And he knew that there was one happening. They were already headed there. It's like, it's the path that's laid out before him. This is his hero's journey. Like, that's why he didn't go join the City Watch and lie about being a knight.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So you can say the book implies it, but Kim's response is it is unsettled at this point. Who knows if the show? I could see the show taking a position on it. You know,
sure. In the same way that House of the Dragon kind of like filled in some ambiguities of the text writing, you know, totally.
But it has not taken that position yet. So we'll see if it does. But nonetheless, thank you, Alex, for writing into acastofkings@gmail.com. We also got this email into acastofkings@gmail.com from Lanier. Lanier writing into castofkings@gmail.com. Again, that's acastofkings@gmail.com. Love your show and been listening for years. Quick question. Who is the person that gets stabbed in the previously on segment ahead of episode 2? I don't remember that scene at all, or whoever that character is supposed to be, end quote. So in the previously on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, you see a character get stabbed momentarily. Lanier is wondering, who is that? Kim, you have an answer, right?
I rewatched it. And I'm almost certain what this email is referring to is actually a flashback moment that we did see in the pilot episode, but it's a flashback to Sir Arlen on a battlefield or somehow in the line of duty to one of the lords. he's having a spear like taken out of his side. But I think in the flash, it might have looked like someone's actually stabbing him with it, or that it's like a repeated stabbing motion. But no, it was like he's in a medical tent. I'm pretty sure that's the flash of what you're seeing. But there was no important narrative bit that happened in the last week's episode involving a stabbing.
It's just a little bit of Arlen's backstory. Is kind of Arlen has suffered for the people that he's been charged with protecting.
Yes, which we see more of like in this episode, which we'll get to more details of course, soon. But like, you know, we see his body was heavily scarred, implying that he had many gash wounds or joust wounds, whatever it was, throughout his 60 plus years of life.
Yeah. Keep those emails coming into acastofkings@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you have to say about the show, about the podcast, anything going on in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. All right, Kim, let's talk about what actually happened in the episode. Again, season 1, episode 2, Hard Salt Beef. This episode picks up the day after Dunk formally accepted Egg as his squire. Dunk is still trying to find another knight or lord or prince who will vouch for Sir Arlen's existence and legitimacy, but keeps striking out. We have to talk about the very, very opening segment of the show, which I was complimenting the show's use of male nudity last week on the podcast, but I don't think...
What did you manifest?
In my head, I'm like, oh, wow, are they actually going to show it? And then not only do they show it, they show urine coming out of it. And it's like, amazing.
I think amazing. I like, you know, did the pause that I sometimes do. And I'm like, oh, right, this is an HBO show. And then I think like my hand went over my mouth when he just like held it. And I was like, oh, and then the timing of Dunk's voiceover saying, I think he said like he had many appeasements or like a peaceable nature about him or something.
Yeah.
But I was just like,
it's funny because he has this like voiceover that kind of may or may not be undercut by what you're seeing of Sir Arlen in the flashbacks. There is a kind of, I will say, occasionally juvenile sensibility to the show. I mean, I think because there's not even really a joke. Like there's a little bit of a joke of the juxtaposition of how self-important the narration is versus like these bodily functions that we're seeing. But beyond that, that's not a very deep joke, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's just, hey, isn't it funny we're showing a naked dude and he's peeing? Like, that's about as deep as I think it gets a little bit, which I don't have a problem with. It's just notable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels, and I have felt this before watching HBO shows specifically, I guess, because I grew up like, you know, watching Disney Channel and PBS. My parents like wouldn't let me watch Nickelodeon because they thought that was like too weird and selling stuff to me for my sensible little eyes and ears. So by the time I was watching HBO shows, I was like, I would be like, oh, right, like that's how I know I'm watching an HBO show, is when there's particularly full frontal nudity for like a non-sexual scene, or just like it feels like it's like a because we can kind of thing sometimes, of like, oh right, we're in the world where like, I think Westworld did this a lot too, but obviously within the narrative of the story for a lot of the time. But there were other times where I'm like, oh, you just can have an orgy.
Yeah.
Like for no reason.
It's just, what if we showed this guy's massive wang and also he's peeing in the morning? Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Yeah.
I think that's about as far as it goes. Let me know if there's other layers.
They did this with Hodor.
Benioff
and Weiss did the same thing with Hodor for a scene where there was just like an unexpected, like, oh, Hodor's got a giant penis, like, moment, and then I don't know, that's just something we know about him now, and so I guess now we will always think of Sir Arlen, the endowed.
Indeed. I think I'm also a fan of how the show is doing the title. It just the title pops on screen, you know, after a cold open, and that's the way it's been for this episode and last episode, and it feels very elegant to me. It's a nice font, and there is no title sequence like there is in Game of Thrones: The House of the Dragon. It's just the title, and I like it. It's simple and elegant, you know.
Yeah, and I like the structure. I think that they've also hit about 3 minutes of an introduction too, like before that title card comes up the last 2 episodes. So I'm like, oh, there's like, again, I feel like we're sinking into like a new rhythm of storytelling within this Westeros universe that I like. I like what Ira Parker and the team have done.
All right. By the way, what is hard salt beef, Kim Renfro? You want to help explain that to us?
It's like awful beef jerky, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's like effectively, I was Googling this too. I don't think anyone calls it hard salt beef in true
I don't think
historical times.
In the show, I don't think
it is either. Yeah. So yeah, I think that you're just supposed to pick up on it's written a lot in George's books. It's kind of similar to like, you know, it's part of the on the road meal of someone who's pretty down on their luck or just poor is like hard salt beef, hard cheese, maybe bread or like an apple if you have it. But yeah, like it's basically a large portion of cow that would have been like cured, salted, and dried down until it literally like you have to carve it with a knife to get strips of jerky off of it. And it's just, you know, if you don't have anything else to eat for days, that'll keep you alive with some water until you get to like the next inn or something. And so I think it's very symbolic of the hedge knight's life. We see, and I think that I love that they intentionally seem to show one of the more positive memories that Dunk has of his life with Sir Arlen, of them like laughing together despite being in awful circumstances, sharing a hunk of hard salt beef and trying to keep warm in the rain. And then it comes around at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about when we get
it is just interesting to kind of get a sense of, hey, not all knights slept in really nice places and were rich and whatever. Like some knights were just kind of sell swords to some extent, you know, like they're kind of just sticking around with different people, right?
Right. I mean, they're the unhoused knights of Westeros, literally. Like knights that I think that someone else maybe emailed us about this, or maybe I saw a comment on our YouTube video, but that like, yeah, knights can go pledge their service to a house and then get basically room and board in return, and warm meals every night. But then they owe all of their loyalty and allegiance and service to that house for the rest of their life. Hedge knights have distinctly not done this for whatever reason. As we see, it's harder than one might think to curry the favor of a lord in Westeros. So yeah, I think just indicative of the type of life Dunk is used to living, and it's very different from the life of pretty much everyone else in that camp who's entering this tourney.
On that note, Dunk's luck changes when the tourney competitors arrive from House Targaryen, and we meet Baelor Targaryen, who is the Prince of Dragonstone and heir to the Iron Throne. I really enjoyed all of his intros, and then the guy says, and his brother, and that's it for him.
Rude.
Which is very funny.
Yeah. But then I'm like, Maekar had it coming, clearly. Maybe Maekar has a bad reputation.
And like Maekar looks older than Baelor, but he's not older, right? Like,
he's not supposed to be.
I think in the universe of the show, he's only like 35 years old, even though he looks almost like significantly older than that.
Yeah. I mean, like Ned Stark was supposed to be like 32 or something, you know, like all in the same way that like Dunk clearly isn't really a teenager. It sort of feels like everyone's just by nature of casting, everyone gets kind of aged up. But yeah, he does appear older, but Baelor is the eldest of the 4 sons to King Daeron at the time. He makes an allusion to their other 2 brothers in this episode, Rhaegal and Aenys, in such that like they aren't here. And in the book, it just says that those 2 are not the type of brothers who like to go to tournaments for one or another reason. So
it is cool.
Baelor and Maekar.
It is cool that we've now seen the Targaryen dynasty at like multiple points in time, you know. And I mean, everything looks very similar. Like the technology hasn't changed that much, but still, just like seeing kind of how their level of respect and so on among the people and how it's changed over time. Especially at the beginning of Game of Thrones, is very different than now, obviously. But Maekar Targaryen, he is the brother of Baelor and also has 3 sons, one of which we meet, Aerion, right? Is that right? Or Aeron?
Aerion.
Aerion
Anyway, Targaryen.
He's the one who's kind of a dick to Dunk.
Yeah.
And then his other two sons are lost. Like they're AWOL. We don't know where they are. Right. So
Exactly.
that's what's going on with them.
Yes.
And then, yep, go ahead.
Baylor has a son who we only see in the jousting scene later.
At the very end.
At the very end. He's like participating in the joust. That's Baylor's, one of Baylor's sons.
There's a meeting between the Kingsguard and Dunk, and they kind of have a little confrontation. Not confrontation, just kind of like, there's a couple scenes where Dunk is dealing with horses this episode. I think it's very nice. It's very sweet. And he seems to have a way with the creatures, which is nice.
Yes.
But anyway, he encounters the Kingsguard and they have a little dialogue, and he gets a little bit inspired, doesn't he? Because he's like, hey, if crabbers can become knights, surely I can. Right? That's kind of the rationale there. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about these Kingsguard? Like, who are these guys? Are they significant in any way? Like, what do you know about them?
Yeah, I loved this scene. We meet them. We do meet them in the book as well.
Sir Donald of Duskendale and Sir Roland Craycall. Those are the characters.
Yes. I loved it because in the books, there's been a reordering of a few different kind of important, I guess, moments in the show in terms of like it's interesting that you just said that it feels to you like his conversation with the Kingsguard inspired him to go follow like the Targaryens in and kind of be like a little more emboldened in that conversation.
Well, I wasn't necessarily saying that, but I was saying in general, I think this episode is kind of about the American dream of like starting from nothing and becoming someone. And and I know like England is probably a better analog for what's going on in the show, but I think there's something distinctly American about what Sir Dunk is trying to attempt here.
Yeah.
And the story that he hears from these Kingsguard is kind of part of that. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I think that's exactly right. And I think the piece of it that is also, I think, deeply American is the like mythologizing that happens around those stories. And like I like the fact that it that we get the flip side perspective of it so quickly in this episode with Egg saying like, oh, well, you, the audience, might be thinking more of like Sir Davos, like, oh, like he was like the son of a crabber, like, you know, lived in a fishing village near this castle and is the first in his family to get raised to knighthood or something. But then from what Egg says is that, oh, his dad, it's like he's more of a Nepo baby than anything, that like his dad owns all the fishing fleets, the crab fishing fleets in Westeros, and like that's part of that was his in.
Sir Donald of Duskendale.
Yep.
His father owns half the crabbing fleets in Westeros.
And so I think that Dunk is navigating that of like having to learn that there might be more to someone's story than he realizes, or that there are different ways to embellish. In the case of the way that he remembers Sir Arlen, there are ways to embellish one's positive qualities or kind of paint them in a different light in order to try to, you know, climb the ladder of, in this case, Westeros. But people do that for America all the time. Totally.
Absolutely. So Dunk follows the Targaryens into the castle and eavesdrops on them, getting surprised in the process by young Gwen Ashford, who tells Dunk that two of the younger Targaryens are missing. So this is the daughter of the Lord of Ashford House, right? Gwen?
Yeah, so Lord Ashford, who like is the lord of this castle where the tournament is happening in the meadow outside. The entire tournament is actually happening in honor of Gwen's 13th birthday. They call it Name Day in Westeros. So she was there to, you know, greet the Targaryen princes, and she will be seated on the highest overlooking spot for the joust. And she's there as like they call her the Queen of Love and Beauty. So Sir Ashford is this is like his bid to try and, I think, marry her off or like introduce her to society more formally and hope that she catches the eye of some great lord or perhaps a knight. But honestly, he's trying to find a lord or a prince, I would assume. So yeah, it's funny that they not only like had her there in the courtyard when the Targaryens arrived, but invented this little scene of her kind of poking fun at Dunk. you see again how he's like he's clearly not a kid, but like kids sort of don't recognize him as a grown-up either, you know, like don't really like respect him or approach him as if he's a knight. So he's navigating the fact that he's navigating that and Egg and then these princes all at once. I really loved Dunk in this episode.
Yeah, she kind of flirts with him a little bit. Did I interpret that correctly? Right, like she kind of.
I didn't think it was flirting. I thought she was. If anything, I was like, "You're kind of bullying him. Don't call him big and stupid and run away." Like,
well, I just thought that was something that I thought that was something that she was doing because she kind of liked him. That was my interpretation. But you know, maybe you know.
Maybe I'm too sensitive to think that teasing is flirting.
Yeah, that's kind of what I just assumed. But you know, maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Anyway, okay, it's fine.
I don't know. I think it was just. I think it was I think it was certainly a way of bringing our attention to Gwen, as like I assume we're going to see her more as the tournament continues, because again, she is the reason for the tournament happening.
Right. It just came out of nowhere. Like he didn't even do anything that wrong. So I was like, why is she doing that? Other than that, maybe she's like repressing something or something. You know, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's worth noting maybe in this scene too that like, because that moment with Gwen takes away from you fully hearing the conversation taking place between the Targaryens. And I just want to emphasize again that like one of the things that's going to be different about this show is that when we say like we're staying in Dunk's point of view, Ira Parker I think has taken that very seriously, and that like we're not going to have Dunk like leave the room and then the conversation carry on, or vice versa. Like we're not going to see what's happening intimately between two people before Dunk enters that room. Like we are only seeing and hearing what he's seeing and hearing. So in that moment he was like kind of trying to hear and couldn't, because this girl came up behind him out of nowhere and like threw him off. And then all of a sudden he was caught as if he's like spying, which he kind of was, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say Dunk manages to find himself in really private places that theoretically should be extremely secure. There's no Westeros Secret Service. You know what I'm saying? Like he just like last episode, he just wandered up to the table of the guy who's hosting the feast and everything like that. This episode, he's just kind of can eavesdrop on these machinations. So apparently it's just open for anyone. It's just open season. Anyone can just wander in. Is kind of my sense.
Yeah, and you know, he's got that like pretty white boy privilege going for him too. You know,
I'm sure pretty white boy privilege is a thing in Westeros.
I think it exists. And I mean, if anything, it's also interesting that this was much more pointed last week, but like he can't really hide very well because he's so huge.
Yeah.
Like if he tries to make himself unassuming in a room, it doesn't work. Like that's how Sir Lionel spotted him. Or again, even in this case, we'll get to it, like the tug of war scene. Like he can't just sit at a bar, I don't think, without being very noticeable. Same with Egg. I think Egg's little bald head, like the pair of them are just hard to miss.
Indeed. The Targaryens catch Dunk lurking, and a tense conversation reveals that Baelor himself once jousted against Sir Arlen. He throws his support behind Dunk, making his dream a reality. I really love this sequence. I think Baelor just comes off as like a really dignified, fair character who's like, oh, this would be a good ruler if he was ever in charge. Like he understands this young man's plight. He tries to reason, come to a reasonable solution, but he's also firm. He's like, hey, you can't use that armor. That's illegal. Like he's also like has a sense of the rules. He's not just like completely a pushover. Just an awesome character. Just love the character of Baelor. And his brother Maker, kind of a dick, but obviously he's supposed to be. And also Sir Dunk, really just completely out of his element, doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm enjoying that. So yeah.
When he said this, the line like, may they not be found dead, or what, I forgot exactly what he said to them. That's not in the books. He says something different, but like
I trust they will not be found dead.
I'm sure they won't be found dead, basically. I'm sure they won't be found dead, is what he says. Something along those lines.
Was so funny. Yeah, I thought this scene was like the whole flow of The Kingsguard scene, again, like Dunk with the horses, which, you know, I don't think is just like an aside. I think it absolutely is meant to speak to his character as compared to the other men that we're seeing, and his capabilities, and his gentleness. And yeah, just the way that he puts his foot in his mouth sometimes, and like tries to rectify it. But yeah, it was very enjoyable to watch the different characters either see his struggle and intent and like give him grace, or seize upon his struggle and like lack of being able to put the right words together, and like put him down for it, you know?
Absolutely.
And that is why I think Baylor was such a just like A+ character out the gate, because he did the thing that Dunk has been hoping for, but I think us as the viewer have been hoping for, which is to have a lord like genuinely respect him, hear out his story, believe him, speak well of the man who raised him and, you know, allegedly knighted him. Yeah, I very much loved this introduction of Baylor, which again, like they tweaked the circumstances a little bit, and I think it worked very well, to the advantage for the TV viewer to get to meet the Kingsguard in a way where they feel a little bit more like equals. In the books, Dunk approaches them and he's like approaching them and kind of anxious about like, are you guys in the joust? Like he's like in awe of them and kind of like worried. Like, I think his internal monologue is like a little bit worried about like, oh no, is like this the level of competition I'm up against? But in this case, like the way that they rearranged it and the detail that they added of giving you, you know, that exchange about Sir Donald's background, just led to Dunk's empowerment and kind of putting him on equal footing with some of the other knights here, and having some people treat him like a worthy peer, and in Baylor's case, like he's a worthy knight of the realm. That is intentionally meant to be very meaningful within this world, to have someone like the Knights of the Kingsguard or the heir to the Iron Throne show you that level of like respect and be like, yes, like you can be one of us, even if you're a little bit different, or even if this is unconventional. So
yeah, I love that he gives him a little test. He's like, well, then of course you're going to know this guy's name. And then I'm rooting for Dunk. I'm like, remember, dude, this is the moment. This is the moment. Yeah. And of course he passes, which is
Sir Daemon Lannister. The Grey Line. He's Lord of Casterly Rock now.
So he is.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when his entrance to the tournament is granted, Dunk has to figure out a way to afford armor and get a proper sigil established. He ultimately sells his beloved horse Sweetfoot and trades in Sir Arlen's old armor. Very excruciating. He's betting it all on himself, Kim.
I know.
He's betting it all on himself.
I know. And I guess I did say Sweetfoot. It's in the flashbacks, you see that Sweetfoot was Sir Arlen's horse, but obviously Dunk was like taking care of her for so long. And then I think Dunk, when Sir Arlen died, I think Dunk had the intention of being like, oh, now Sweetfoot, you're mine. And like, it's just, yeah, it was so sad. And yeah, I like,
it's a sweet moment.
It's a sweet moment. I love the detail of like, even though he clearly needs this money so badly, he gave a little bit back and said like, make sure she gets oats and an apple tonight. Yeah. Even him closing the gate, I was like, oh, Dunk would put his grocery cart back at a grocery store, you know, like Dunk would never leave a grocery cart in a parking lot. He's a good guy.
I love this whole interaction with the guy who's making the armor too, and you know the guy's making the armor, Steely Pete, but he's not so steely. You know, he kind of bends a little bit, which is nice because he's like, okay, the guy is Dunk is so pathetic. He's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna have to help this guy out somehow.
Yeah,
which is very nice.
Which again, that was like the pause in dialogue. That scene was almost also it's Steely Pate. Sorry, just so you know, it's not Pete. Because I think we'll probably see him again. Steely Pate.
Basically, George R.R. Martin takes regular Earth names and then just changes one letter. Like all the sirs are S-E-R.
Yeah. There's an Andro participating in this tournament. Anyways, yes, the dialogue from that scene was almost word for word from the book, except the Steely Pate's choice to drop the price by giving that pause and like having Dunk basically effectively walk away and then have him be like, you can trade in the armor, like completely, I think, changes a little bit of the interaction in a really beautiful way, of like adds to you feeling like there are people in Dunk's corner, whether it's just because they pity him or because they think he stands a chance and want to support a guy who's trying. I really loved it. I loved all of those little micro moments in this episode.
He also meets Tanzel, right? To get his sigil repainted.
Yes, they have another little this little low key flirtation.
Meet cute.
Yeah,
so meet cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved Tanzel is her name. Again, Dunk Dunk not quite knowing what to say, and Egg seeming to know all too well what should be said is like a very fun dynamic.
Yes, right. Of like Egg is wise beyond his years and Dunk has no idea what he's doing, and Egg is calling it straight, calling it like he sees it, and Dunk is trying to like project this air of himself that doesn't really exist. It's a fun dynamic. I agree.
Egg kind of saves him from himself a little bit sometimes.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Anyway, that night the tournament finally begins. Dunk and Egg and the rest of the small folk are camped outside the castle, head to the arena where the chaotic jousting happens. Egg cheers and roars, praising the riders and their brave horses for such wonderful entertainment, but Dunk seems quickly overwhelmed by the violence of it all, thinking back to Sir Arlen's dead body. Let's talk briefly, Kim, about the battle sequence. I have to say, I had two conflicting thoughts about it. On the one hand, the way everything was shot was incredible. The camera movements. They have this camera system that follows the knights as they are moving along the, like it's like an overhead camera. It looks almost like a drone shot potentially. Could be a crane shot. Or a cable shot. I'm not sure exactly how they did it, but looks amazing. And so just spectacular work all around. It was thrilling. It was amazing to watch. Having said all that, I do think it's also very, very modern. And what I mean by that is, I'm pretty sure knights did not fight like this back then. Like knights had like really heavy armor and it restricts your movement. And here, these knights are freaking like from the John Wick universe. You know, they're like, oh, the horse is, and they're grabbing onto the horse, and while it's in motion and swim up the back and like swinging through things, and it's just like they're moving with such liveness and quickness. It looks awesome. I understand why they're doing it. They're making the show for a modern audience. But my guess, I don't know. I'm not an expert. My guess is it didn't quite play out like this. That's my guess. And when I say it didn't quite, I know this is a show with dragons. I'm saying like whatever the real life analog wasn't exactly like what you see, or even particularly close is what my sense is. But
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, I too am not a true medieval knight expert, and so I'm like my analog is like A Knight's Tale, and I'm like I don't know that, like, you know, like
which is we all know is the most historically accurate depiction of that time period.
I learned everything I know about that time period from A Knight's Tale. So yeah, like I've had that in my mind more when I've been watching this show than I have been trying to wonder if any of this is actually how it worked. And it's interesting that in the books, I think that George R. R. Martin kind of does something clever by saying like a tournament is actually just like at the Lord's whim for what it contains. Like they could make up a game. It could be knights doing one-on-one foot battle. It could be a melee, like, you know, everyone in the pit. It could be like this, apparently. Yeah, so he kind of I feel like maybe that's a way of hand waving away, like, there's no one way to skin a cat. There's no one way to do violence for entertainment in Westeros. And so, yeah, it reminded me of seeing the scene and the production scale and the sort of like epicness with which I think they pulled off this rather short, you know, sequence reminded me a bit of like the House of the Dragon pilot, in that George R. R. Martin has been super clear. He talks about this in interviews, both, you know, Ryan Condal in that first season. I remember I interviewed him about this. I've seen Ira Parker, I think, speak to this with some other outlets, but that one of the things that George really loves about his books that he's always wanted to see come to life on screen are things like the big colorful pavilions, the intricate, insane armor that he has dreamt up in his mind that like probably would never have been practical for a real knight in the real world.
Some of which we see in this episode. Like you see a knight's helmet that has like flames coming off it, which is really cool. You know, there's a lot of cool designs in the episode. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that any of the, like you said, like modernity or, you know, I think of the analog A Knight's Tale a lot. Did we like, you know, in terms of like, there are no rules, I guess, when you're in this fantasy realm. And
I see. Yeah,
it's George's. I think that what we're seeing seems to be in line with what George had always hoped these books might turn into someday. You know, he famously sat down to write A Song of Ice and Fire thinking it would be unfilmable because he had already worked in television and encountered the fact that he could dream up these scenes and sequences, but there was a very practical barrier in the way of making them come to life in a way that people would like and enjoy and not, you know, poke holes at because it doesn't look good enough or whatever. So watching this, I was like, oh, I bet George R. Martin is somewhere feeling happy that even this kooky craziness, men jumping off horses, you know, the whole like, you know, fling away the lance and jump off the horse and pick up a spear. Like that is like in his writing about like these epic deeds that knights would pull off in these tournaments. And so, yeah, we get to enjoy the HBO level production embellishment of all that.
Back at the camp, Dunk laments to Egg how disappointed he is in the way Sir Arlen's legacy has been given so little ceremony in the days following his death. Dunk wants to prove that Hedge Knights are just as worthy of remembering, so he carves off a piece of his hard salt beef with pride as the episode ends. Kim, Dunk is really just he's pushing all the chips into the middle on this whole Gambit succeeding, man. You know, like it's really a bet the whole house on this because he is in deep on multiple levels with multiple people where he actually might be in trouble if he doesn't succeed, right? Like he will have trouble existing in the world, I think, if he doesn't succeed.
Oh, certainly. And like, not to mention the risk to his body and person of just deciding that this is the one shot he's going to take at establishing a better life for himself. Like he chose one of the most, I think, feels like risky life or death, you know, all or nothing modes off the bat. There was a moment too where I think in this episode, I didn't notice it until I was rewatching it, but when Egg asks to be taken down from Dunk's shoulders.
Yeah. What'd you make of that?
When I rewatched it, I realized that what he seems to be reacting to is that the camera had just been close in on the other squires, like picking up the lances, running around these big horses. And like, it didn't quite click for me until watching it that second time. Like, oh, that's what Egg thinks he can do for Dunk. And Egg's a pretty little guy. Like he's watching these grown men squiring for knights. And I think that him and Dunk realize it, but then obviously deal with it in different ways that like they set themselves up for a very hard challenge in terms of just pulling off being able to physically survive this tournament, let alone with all of their honor intact and all of their debts paid and, you know, no limbs being cut off.
I'm really curious how the show's going to pull it off. I mean, I assume, but I don't know, that it's not going to end in complete failure and tragedy because there's other books from Dunk and Egg, and I assume they're not flashbacks. So, which wouldn't make any sense because they meet in this story. But so I assume it's not going to end horribly, and I'm really curious how the show is going to make that convincing. Because so far, the idea that this guy is going to step into the ring with these people, and this squire is going to step into the ring with these other squire, and like that they're going to do well, feels really strange credulity for me. So I'm curious to see how the show's going to handle it.
Yeah, I was watching it with my husband who hasn't read the books, and he just goes, "Is he gonna die?" about Dunk. Like he was like checking in with me. I'm like, "Is this like a Ned Stark situation?"
Right. It's like he doesn't seem like there's any hope for this guy. So we'll find out. We'll find out. Anyway, a fun episode. Kim, any other scenes or moments that you want to bring up or compare to what's going on in the book?
I just want to shout out the final line of this episode. Peter Claffey, who plays Dunk, did such a good job in this final monologue of kind of settling into like Dunk feeling a bit like emboldened and empowered. And yeah, when he says, "On the morrow, we will show them what his hand has wrought."
On the morrow, we will show them what his hand has wrought.
It was like very, I was like, yeah, you go show them. Like, go show them the man Sir Arlen made you into. You know, I got convinced, and then it doesn't take long for me to be like, "You're just a boy." But I love that line.
Was it like a Mickey Mouse voice?
Oh, sorry. That was, what is that? Oh, that's I do this. Sorry. Quick mom moment for me. I do this for my son. If I need to like change his diaper or we need to get through something that's kind of hard, I imitate that bit from Finding Nemo when he's approaching the lava like trial in the fish tank, and you know they're going like and then one of the other fish goes like, "Oh, isn't there another way? He's just a boy." And I do that for my son a lot because I'm like, yeah, man, I wish there was another way to get through this, but unfortunately we have to, you know, change your diaper or wipe your face or get in the car seat. So that's what that was. He's just a boy. And I think that about Dunk sometimes.
That's delightful.
Isn't there another way? No, apparently. This is the only thing you can do. Yeah.
All right.
On that note. Sorry. Because I was just shouting out the writing of that line, I did also want to take a moment to acknowledge the co-writer of this episode, Aziza Barnes. You might have noticed their name in the credits because it pops up right away after the director when the episode ends, that this particular episode, season 1, episode 2, Hard Salt Beef, was co-written by Ira Parker, the showrunner, and a writer, Aziza Barnes. Right after that, the next slide said that this episode is dedicated in loving memory to Aziza Barnes. I didn't know this. I had never heard of Aziza Barnes, but I always take note of all of the writers on these shows that I love because I often find through lines between their other work. I know that there are some writers who have worked on multiple shows that I've loved. And yeah, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge Aziza Barnes's life and legacy, even within this one episode of television. Seems like they were very talented and died too young. And I'm sorry for their loss. And if an episode of TV like this is going to be part of their memory and blessing, I think that that's really special. So
agreed.
Just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.